these two AI experts who can't get the audio
They
to
want
work.
to they want to tell us about AI. They can't figure out how to get the audio on the thing. Yeah, exactly. So these guys, yeah, which would actually be entertaining,
Thank
I
God we're
think.
not trying to get the
Two
printer to work.
clowns. It's a clown show, But then they go, but no, I think these guys look, they sound pretty smart. There's something hidden in there. We're missing something. Maybe this is on purpose. They're throwing a curveball at us. They're
That's right.
they're hyper intelligent, but they're just pretending they're not.
That's right.
You
Exactly.
know,
Asperger's at work.
yeah. I mean, you know, fuck.
Uh,
Oh, so yeah, I was kind of getting the reins back on this horse. Was thinking about what this is about, and what is really who really cares, or and I've I've done enough YouTube videos to know that if I don't like him, if it's not interesting to me, that I'll stop doing them. There's no
sure.
yeah, there's no like why wake up and it's like I gotta do something hard work for this that I doesn't inspire any passion. So I said, well, this is going to be about AI. We got to talk about AI. We got to talk about the future of humanity and all this other kind of stuff. And I said, well, yeah, maybe, or just talk. I don't know. Don, I haven't seen him in a while. We had a nice time catching up. There's maybe some fun in just talking and having a conversation.
We
Um,
we could talk about anything, man. And people might like it, people might not like it. I gotta say, I mean, we talked last time. I told you about my tin hat and everything, and I was all like going down the rabbit hole and going, okay, gotta have an avatar, can't use my name. I was gonna have this set of rules, and then finally I was like, I said, what the hell? It's just Dennis and I are gonna sit down and talk, and I trust Dennis, and he'll turn it into whatever the hell he wants to, and it should be fun.
yeah, and I said, like, I'm not gonna, put anything out you don't want out there. Uh,
Oh, I believe me. I mean, you know how I am. I'll say practically anything, anytime, and so not really so much worried about that. It's just my own insecurities, really, and so I'm not going to have those. So, in other
yeah.
words, I'm giving you free artistic freedom, man. You can just stick
Well,
it out there however you want.
I'll use it wisely. Let me put it
Cool.
that
I
way.
figured.
But I was Diva and me were talking not too long ago
How
about
do you
like
spell her?
conversations like that, and she is it makes she notices like Americans when we talk, we'll share some things like about insecurities or something bad that happened to us and all that. And she's like, wow,
Hmm.
that's not Lithuanian style. We kind of keep it, going back to Soviet and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
You keep
Sure.
it inside. You don't share a lot of stuff. So, but she kind of likes it. She's like, wow, that's kind of nice. And we got to the point in the conversation where you know you you say, yeah, man, maybe I shouldn't say what I'm really thinking or something like that, or maybe I shouldn't share that. That's something I hold pretty close, and then you go, you know what, you hold on to it and it ain't much longer, you're gonna die anyway. It's like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold this, I don't know, something we talked about maybe, and then it's like, hold on to that, and I don't want to tell anybody. It ain't that big a deal, and you know, shit, we're gonna freaking kick the bucket anyway.
It's interesting. You mentioned Diva, and it is Diva.
Diva, yeah, with an
Okay.
A, Daiva, yeah.
Ah, there you go, like a German sort of thing. Yeah, the second vowel being the one that you pronounce. So
Oh, is that German also?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
German. So, But there was something I think that we talked about that night that I was kind of going, I wasn't even thinking about Lithuanian history. But, I was talking about a bit of an admiration for Karl Marx, which is not at all an admiration for the Soviet Union. And, if I in any way offended her, please let her know that I have no admiration for the Soviet Union. Karl Marx, on the other hand, I have some admiration for because
Interesting.
I find the idea of being able to have a truly egalitarian society pretty, you know, idealistic,
Yeah,
where we can, from all according to their means to all according to their needs, right? That's a
yeah,
really nice thing to say, right? It's hard to do.
yeah. Very hard to
But
do.
communism is an economic system, not a political system, and so that's where everything got screwed up. In my mind, is that
Yeah, yeah,
communism is something we can shoot for, but we sure as hell shouldn't be shooting for, Russian or Soviet Union style, political systems
yeah.
where all your freedoms are taken away. Your
Well,
freedoms should be enabled.
I
You
had
know.
this thought that if I was around in like 1910, 11, 12, and then into 15, 16, 17, when the Russian Revolution came around and they had czars, and the czars were, I'd call them assholes or whatever. Why they have
Dictators.
all that money, and why do they control the land, and why, I got to be the guy working their land for what? I'm a
Yeah.
smart guy and I'm freaking doing this, digging up
I'm the one making
potatoes
all your
and
money.
getting nothing for it. And
Yeah.
so, if I was living in that time, I'd have been all in. I would have been with Trotsky. I'd have been with, well, Lenin for sure. I'd have been with Lenin's like communist. This is what we've been waiting on.
Yeah.
This is, and
Yeah.
but here's the thing. Now I have the benefit of 100+ years of hindsight and go, oh, that's what it really turns into. That's what it's like. And
It could work
so
if it. I think it could work if it just weren't trying to work on humans.
yeah, if we did it with, or if we did it on Animal Farm. Now wait a minute, it didn't work on animals either.
True.
Yeah, and so I'm as I've seen, and I've had a chance to travel some. I've taken some trips east. I used to travel more east. I've been to Ukraine. I've been to Russia. I've been Moldova. Of course, I'm here in Lithuania, Latvia. So I've been in the Eastern European and been in Poland now. And what I felt, I even tried to start a business in Ukraine to help people um, go west, find jobs like in America and Western Europe and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And I've spoken at public meet, not public, but like a meeting, and then at a university, and I had a website. And I was trying to help people. And what I saw with the people, young people, a lot of them, because I worked with young people because they were more interested in getting out of the country and everything, was this defeatism even in young people that as an American I didn't resonate with me. These were people that would say, who were like in their early 20s, 19, 20, 20, and say to me, it's never going to get better. I'm like,
Mm.
really? And I tried to get to the source of where this mentality came from, where this defeatism came from. And my conclusion I reached was that it came from communism and socialism and the the evolution of these systems that eventually sucks the soul out of these people. And so I'd always had so when you say Karl Marx, okay, I know where you're coming from, Don. I know you're not a Marxist.
Yeah.
In that sense of
Yeah.
you want to revolutionize the world because you've seen how bad it ends up being with humans, as you say. So, as I learned and gained experience and internalized and processed what I was seeing and hearing from these people, and saw it in the architecture and at that point in Ukraine, the corruption, the mafia that controlled most everything, and I developed a very strong distaste for that system of governing, this Marxist, this socialist, communist. We lump them all together. My term is collectivism. It's a collectivist society where you pool all your resources, and like you kind of explained. And so I've developed a uh, really a distaste for communism, and I'm almost a sworn enemy of it. I'm like, if
Yeah.
I see it or it's like a cockroach to me, I will not hesitate to pounce and crush it. Not that I have the ability to, but
Right.
that's how I
Right.
feel about it. It's like a cockroach.
Sure.
I see no redeeming qualities in it. I see only uh, the, what it leads to in this horrendous, really mass execution of people who disagree with it. If you look at
Yeah.
I just watched a Solzhenitsyn video about his life and everything. Big fan of his and how he exposed all that. And so I don't know how I got on on this rant,
Oh,
but
I brought it up.
yeah. So
Yeah.
um, that's kind of where I'm coming from on that.
No, I mean I get it, and believe me, couldn't agree more. But the the thing is, and the reason why I think it's so important, and I talk to people a lot about this, is my view is that you really do have to separate the economic system from the social system, right, or the political system, because I'm not at all about taking people's freedoms away, right? Instead, what I'm saying is that the economic system, you know, capitalism, you know, has does a wonderful job of maximizing output. I think we've talked about this before. But what it doesn't do a great job of is distributing the capital that results from it. So it maximizes capital, but then it has a tendency to, you know, land much of it, and more of it as the system becomes more and more efficient ends up in a small group of people's hands. Um, and the reason why that efficiency is coming now is obvious. Technology is allowing this efficiency, so the distribution of the wealth can happen more quickly than it ever has before. Um, and so something's going to have to be done. I mean, to get to, and this is where I was talking, when it comes to AI, this I think is the biggest problem with AI, in my mind, is that AI is going to take away a lot of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to cause huge efficiencies, okay,
Yeah.
which usually is a good thing. So it's going to create enormous quantities of capital. But all that capital, there aren't going to be as many workers. So more and more and more of the capital is going to go to the owners, right?
Yeah. And the
And so,
stockholders and who are
yeah,
owners, I
the
guess.
stockholders, the executives, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to once again create a bigger divide. And history has shown us that sooner or later, the poor do rise up. Um,
But
and
aren't there
so,
less poor? Aren't there less poor in this system in capitalism than in, say, Soviet Union? There's
yes, but again, that's because, in my opinion, because of the social system that's being used. If Russia could be truly communist and distribute all of their capital evenly amongst their populace, and there would be fewer poor, fewer rich, but fewer poor. And see, to me, what I've always thought was that a more socialist idea would be to let capitalism do what it does best, which is maximize the amount of capital created, and then have socialism, which is a dirty word in the world right now, especially on the right. But let socialism redistribute that wealth so that we don't have as many poor. Um, and, you know, there's going to be a great need for that because there's going to be a lot of unemployment. And even if there's not unemployment, there's going to be a frictional unemployment, a move from one's career to a new career that's going to be necessitated. And
Mm-hmm.
that career may or may not pay as well. In the past, this tended to happen to the lower class,
Mm-hmm.
but this is going to be happening to the higher class.
Mm-hmm.
This is going
And
to
the
be
educated,
happening to the
higher
to the
educated.
technologically, capable class,
Yeah.
and those folks are going to be losing jobs. And the jobs that they might find might be, tourism related, um, some sort of service uh, job that might not pay nearly as well.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of dissatisfaction, frankly.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think, and I think that's the challenge in the AI age is what do you do with that lack of satisfaction? In a free society like the United States, well, you've got to vote. So hopefully the vote can help, um, to bring about some of the needed changes. In a not so free society like the Soviet Union, well, or Russia now, it just all goes to the oligarchs, and you've got more and more unrest. But the Soviet Union fell, a very militaristic society that had their thumb on everyone.
Mm-hmm.
In my tour of the Baltic states, we went down into a Soviet bunker, right,
Mm-hmm.
and had a lot of talks with a lot of people about what it was like living in the Soviet Union, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was. I have no fondness whatsoever for what happened there. Um, so, um, so the question will be, how long will the populace allow that to happen? And eventually that unrest will spill out in some way. The remarkable thing about the Soviet Union was it collapsed relatively peacefully, but it might not have,
Yeah.
you know.
Um, I'm trying to. I hear everything you're saying, and I do think AI is a game changer in this conversation about like class inequality and that kind of thing. Because if you had told me 5 years ago about, the rich are so much richer than the poor, uh, or the middle class or anybody else, I'm like, so what? Why do you care? My answer would be, look, you can go down to Walmart and get yourself a 52-inch frickin' TV, put it in your living room, working on minimum wage, and you can watch anything you want. You can get Netflix for, at that point, it was like $10 a month. What are you complaining about? Why do you? And that's where I got on my little soapbox. Is like, why do you care somebody has $100 billion? What is that? Is that any of your business? Are you jealous? Is that what we're introducing into the equation, that we your envy, greed, this guy's got so much more than me. What does it frickin' matter? If your life is comfortable, should it even matter? My answer would have been no. It doesn't amount to a hill of beans whether the richest man in the world is 500 times richer than you or a million times richer. What difference does it make? If you got a job and you got a TV and you got, hell, even trailers. I've been in trailers before, in trailer courts. They ain't that freaking bad, man. As long as they don't leak, they got a big ass
Right.
TV in there. You got a place to park your car in front. And the only thing is the noise, people making too much noise outside. Well, so freaking bad. Go do the best you can and make some money. Start a business, blah, blah, blah. And so that would have been my answer even 3 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago. And then I found ChatGPT, and now I've been looking at this and I go, oh, really, this is changing what you were just talking about, how these jobs are going to disappear. People, they're not going to, there's no pulling out of a computer AI doing your job. There's no, like you said, maybe go in the tourist industry, but it's gonna lead. Well, the long term, I could, that's something maybe we'll save for another call.
Yeah.
Long term, I see extinction, human extinction. Um, but
Or at
well
least,
before that, uh, there's how do you get out of this? You're
yeah, that's what I'm more worried about. I mean, extinction is extinction, and the Earth has had extinctions before; it'll have them again. I always laugh at people who go, they start talking about how, oh, the Earth has always gone through ice ages and heating and cooling, and I'm like, hey, guy, I'm not talking about is Earth going to be okay. I'm talking about are humans and animals going to be okay?
mm,
Earth will be just fine.
yeah, it's a big rock. It ain't
It's
going nowhere.
it's had mass extinctions before, and it'll have
Yeah,
them again. You know, so but AI is going to cause huge, you know, uprisings, upheaval, in my opinion.
yeah,
Um, and it's I and I think it's coinciding with a time um, where people want a more hands-off approach, and that's not gonna work. We need a real hands-on approach right
yeah.
now,
But
and the rich don't want hands-on because
well, but
you know,
I think it's just going to be so freaking messy. It's I sense a lot of idealism in your philosophy, like
yeah,
humans can we can figure it out. We can elect people that will be smart enough to, know how to redistribute or do things in a way, but I'm not an optimist at all in that. And then this whole how we're organized as a culture, as a person, to value work, and now work won't mean nearly as much because you won't have it. You can't work, or the AI took my job. What the hell? I mean, what else is left? The droids are going to take the manual jobs eventually as well.
yep,
And like you said, there's going to be profits. There's going to be people who took advantage of this, saw it coming, who were already in place with huge corporations, the Magnificent Seven or whatever you call, the ones that are
yeah.
already there that are able to take of scaling up AI, and they're going to do just fine. But yeah, there's going to be but it's going to be messy, very messy, and
Well, it is, and that's my worry. Is that I mean, I will admit, it's funny. I I met a guy in my very first job out of college. I met a guy, and I've had all kinds of nicknames um, in my life. Most of them I wouldn't call, I guess, completely complimentary. And what I mean by that is, like, for instance, I've been called the voice of doom
mm,
because I have a tendency to um, worry, and I mean, it made me a good project manager. I was always looking for the risks in the project
mhm.
and trying to account for them, prevent them, etc. But but the reason why I'm saying this is, everybody's always thought of me as a bit of a pessimist, and this guy was like, "No, you're not a pessimist at all, Don. You're an idealist, and so you're constantly disappointed." So coming back to your comment on idealism,
Yeah.
but I do think that something can be done, and it doesn't have to be all that drastic. If people, um, I can completely understand, your point of view, Dennis, which is, especially someone like me who I did well in this, society.
Mm,
I was one of the lucky ones, right? Um, and so what do I care if Musk is even luckier, you know?
mhm,
Because I'm doing fine. This
mhm,
this system works out great for me.
mhm.
But But I look around and I see it doesn't work out very well for a whole lot of people. Far too many people. The reason, I'm a bit of a Bernie Sanders type, I guess I'd say, and that because I think he sort of feels this way, and I'm just using him as an example because he's a handy one. Um, he just feels like, why should there be that many homeless out there and that many poor and people can't afford health care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to get in any sort of political systems, soapbox. But these are problems, obviously, that the
Mm-hmm.
United States and other countries are dealing with. Why is that true if each one of these countries have their own Elon Musk? In the case of the United States, many of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are problems that are solvable just by distributing capital. I'm not talking about making Elon Musk, a millionaire. He can still be a billionaire.
That's
But
nice of you, Don.
yeah,
Can
there you
he,
go.
what level of billionaire are you going to allow this man?
Well, it wouldn't. Well, it wouldn't be me. It would be something that
Well, do you
society.
have a
My
number in
point is,
mind?
society.
Do you
Society
have a
has to
number
vote
in
on this.
mind, Don?
No, I don't. It's a democracy,
Yeah.
and so the democracy needs to know that these problems are coming, and the only solution to the problem that I can foresee is a redistribution because the capital will be there, and much, much more of it than ever before. So the question is, there are going to be more people without work, more people on the lower end of the economic strata, and more people on the very, very, very tenth of 1%. How are we going
Okay.
to handle it?
Well, let's run with this a little bit. I'm
Yeah.
willing to take your premise and go with it.
Well, we
Uh,
can we can also just do more other kind of AI stuff
no,
too
no,
if you
no.
want.
This
It's
is
okay with me.
what the
Okay.
hell. We're here for our. It's for us anyway, right? We agree.
Yeah.
This is
Basically.
uh, the taking this premise that yeah, we're going to need to redistribute and figure out how to get people who've lost employment for no other reason than AI came along and just displaced them by the droves. But I would say, okay, we need to do something. We need to take care, redistribute in a way that's fair and equitable. And then I would look to say the federal government of the United States and go, okay, we've been trying to do this now for the last 50 years. And, we're at about $39 trillion into trying to do this. And it's the way the this is the wrong. It's like the employee who fucked up everything he ever did, other than going out and beating the shit out of people, which is our military. We can do that very well.
Really good
Totally
at that.
incompetent at fixing things. And now we're going to say, oh, but now you're the one we're going to put in charge of this whole new project we've got going, which is redistributing AI wealth to everybody. Wrong person for the job.
Yeah. I'd say they haven't done a great job up until now. Um,
So why do you give
but
this
but having
person
said
that
that,
job?
but again, that's just, I mean, it's democracy. It's society's
Okay,
fault.
let's talk
Okay,
about this
so
then.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
let's
So
leave
I think
everything on the table.
so I think society is going to have to change because, um, and it's gonna happen rapidly. Probably not rapidly enough, but
Yeah.
they're going to start recognizing very soon the problems that are coming, and that is, I assume, going to change the way that they're going to vote. Now, just as a small aside that has nothing to do with AI, we have an enormous amount of debt because we've got a bunch of gutless wonders who we put into office who like to spend money, but they think to get a vote, they've got to make sure that they don't raise money. And that's absurd. Okay. If you don't raise money, you don't spend money.
Well, the
Now,
government's raising more money than it's ever raised before.
of course it is, but it's spending way more than it's
Well,
ever
that's the
raised.
to me that's the problem
Yeah.
is the
Well,
spending.
I hear you,
Yeah,
man. I'm not
but we're
asking
good
them
at
to spend.
collecting taxes. We're good at bringing the money in. We're just even better at sending it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because every single one of these representatives is trying to get a vote. And in order to get a vote, you have to buy the vote. And
Okay.
so that's where all the money is getting spent. And so it's not getting spent really on the good of the populace. It's really being spent for the good of the senators. And if you want to, or representatives or president or whoever. Now, if you want to really go down a rabbit hole, you can talk to me about my idea of we shouldn't have elections. Okay. We'll still be a
Well,
democracy. There won't be an election. The computers who are going to take over the whole thing anyway, we're going to let them randomly select citizens, truly random, so that you'll have you'll have a Congress made up
pretty
of
cool idea.
citizens. Some of them will be some of them will be dunces. Some of them will be geniuses. Some of them will be rich. Some of them will be poor. Some of them will be perhaps homeless, but not for long because we'll give them a good wage while we're. But the point is you'll
Hmm.
truly have a representation of the country, and perhaps then we can get somewhere. And
Yeah.
there will be term limits so that
So
a
homeless
very
dude has to go back to being homeless after his term is up?
well, hopefully not,
I'm
because
kidding, Don. I'm kidding.
well, but I mean, I'm actually taking the example because this is a good example. My point is that after not being homeless for a number of years and making a good wage, he probably will have figured out, or she will have figured out how to continue to do that. Although with AI, maybe there won't be any way to do that. But either way, um, my point is I've pitched this idea before is that we'd have a better representation of society. And with term limits, we could make sure that they're not doing things like just doing what's good for voters. Well, and there wouldn't be voters anymore. So it's going to be random. They're going to be out, you know.
Hmm.
And I think, honestly, you get better decisions.
It can't get worse. Although, yeah,
See?
that's a
On that, we completely agree.
yeah. Well, that interesting idea. I don't think of course, I haven't spoken with you in 40 years except for the other evening. So I haven't heard that idea of yours. Maybe, did you have that in high school or is this an old idea?
No. But I probably had it for the last 30 years.
Yeah, okay. Well, um, I, I, uh, I think it's like you said, the system is going to have to transform, and I'm wondering what's that's going to look like. Your idea is interesting, just random people, your numbers up instead of going to Vietnam in the draft, you go to Congress. Um, Similar fate, maybe. um, but but
Yeah,
something,
that's a great lie.
something.
Never gotten that one from anyone else before.
Yeah. I was waiting for your reaction. You didn't get it on the first one. I had to give it to you on the second one.
It took a second for me to catch what you had said, and then I'm like, yeah, they are similar fates.
But yeah, something's going to have to give. I don't, of course, we can't solve that here right now, but
No, but
something's
we're
got
not
to
supposed to
give.
solve it. We're supposed to talk about it.
We're not built for this new wave of
Nope.
workerless society.
Nope.
I'd say workerless, but it trending towards more and more or less and less workers. Um, uh,
So to me, you've only got two options. Okay. You can either, there's a third option. That's you don't do anything. You just let it happen. Laissez-faire. Well, it's worked great so far in maximizing capital, but again, not in distributing it. But in the new world, you can either legislate that rate of change such that um, you know, can manage the changes to society that go along with it. The technological change, a company with social change. Or alternatively, you let the technology do what it will, but you account for it, with some sort of societal, political, wealth changes.
So is your first proposal, or I don't know if it's a proposal, but idea, whatever, uh, is it sounded like you can't fire people at an exorbitant rate because you're now incorporating AI is what I'm not sure what the first one
Well,
was.
well, the first one was just let AI do what it will. You just you just let it go, and
And so
like I
fire
said,
people,
yeah,
can I
I'm
ask
an
on
economist, and
I want to make sure it's clear because it's not.
yeah,
So the first one is just let AI do what it's going to do, let the chips
yep,
fall where they may. People are
yep,
going to get fired to be unemployed, and
yep,
and then government or whatever just kind of looks and maybe does around the edges, but doesn't really do anything.
right.
Okay.
So, well, no, sorry. That's the first proposal is, yeah, they don't do anything, and that I think is going to lead to riots, unrest, etc. Right?
Yeah.
So AI runs amok, does what it does, going to do it at an incredible rate, a rate like we've never seen before.
Yeah.
To use our fearless leaders language, um, but and that's fine. You could certainly do that, and in fact, that would maximize output. It would maximize total wealth, in my opinion. You just let things run the way they run.
Mm-hmm.
Not very many people will have that wealth, but some will.
Got it.
Um, so, option number two is that you restrict the change of technology and you slow it down deliberately in hopes that society can adjust to these changes as they come. Okay, now how you do that, of course, the effectiveness with which you do that is going to decrease total output in some manner, total wealth in some manner. So the better you do it, the more total wealth you'll have over that period of time. The worse you do it, the less total wealth you'd have over that
So
period of time.
just give me an example of how that is implemented.
So, for instance, no robots. We're going to allow AI to help us make decisions and things like that, but humans are going to make all the decisions. We don't want all the manual labor to go away because we don't want the working class to go away, and so there aren't going to be robots doing the actual work. Just as an example, right? So I'm not saying this is a good idea. I'm just saying
Yeah.
these are the kinds of changes you can
Yeah.
make. You
So
can
we slow
slow
it
that rate
down.
of change. Yep.
Yeah. Slow it down.
Or alternatively, on the other hand, you can try to account for the changes that are coming and hope that you can do that efficiently, right? The problem with that, of course, is that preconceived um, opinions about redistribution of wealth and things like that are not going to make that simple right now. Um, and so, if you do think that these changes that are coming are a problem, it's going to be very difficult right now to deal with them. So you might have to, in fact, do a little of both. You're going to slow down this change so that the other side starts seeing that, oh, we got a problem here,
Yeah.
and can actually, um, influence and react to these changes. Okay. Now, in a democratic society, this is pretty hard. In a dictatorship like China, you know, you can you your economic system, your political system, everything is, whatever you want it to be. So, and if you get it right, then you'll do it better.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get it right, you might do worse.
Yeah.
So that's, we're getting to funny times where,
Yeah.
um, the there are still lessons to be learned from history for sure, but this has never happened before. There's no history to look at. I mean,
Yeah.
there was an industrial revolution, but
Yeah.
I don't think
I
that's.
don't put it in that same boat.
I
This to
don't
me,
either.
I started using ChatGPT 2024 in the summer, wrote that book with it. Use it about every day, uh, a good chunk of the day for content creation, for writing, for everything. Fix the microphone at the start of this to, where am I going to go on vacation in January? Everything.
Yeah.
And granted, in some respects, it's I could Google something and I could have figured it out anyway, in a couple minutes. But now it's like so I think we agree 100%. This is unprecedented. It's transformative. It is like nothing we've ever seen before. And it's going to really be seismic what happens.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's all before the machines actually take over.
yeah. That just gets us to the edge of the cliff before we get pushed off.